Whether you're a life coach, therapist, biohacker, invested in wellness, or in the healthcare profession, if you have an intention to work in psychedelic spaces, you're in the right place then. If you're called, get involved. But first, get informed. Let's talk the 4 N's: intake, intention, in-space integration, leading to deeper transformations. Psychedelic Coach Podcast, Kole. Walk you through the process, it's all possible. Leave space for the follow through. Most importantly, integration is not optional.
All are so lucky today to have not only an incredible facilitator, coach, guide, but someone that stewards lands, has been leading retreats for 15 years. Like, so many things that I know our conversation today is going to pull out all of these nuggets that you're going to be so great tuned in. So y'all, welcome Lauren Gallagher. Let's just jump into who is Lauren today.
It's so awesome to be here. I love you so much, and you've been such a amazing influence on my life. And yeah, where am I at today? A focal point is definitely my kids. So I have 2 kids and I love them. And it's really great to be doing the work that I'm doing because I can keep them at the focus and really build my schedule around them. And yeah, it's really amazing to be like really living my dream. For many years, I held the vision of having a retreat space, and now we do here in California. So a big chunk of my work and what I invest my time into is community work. And then obviously with having land, there's a lot of practical things that are required to keep that thriving. So we spend, my partner and I, a lot of time just visioning our space. We work on it little by little, but there is quite a bit that goes into just the upkeep of that. So we hold retreats there. And actually, as a result of being part of the Condor community, I really got to dive into tending to the love I have for working with people one-on-one. So I've been doing a lot of one-on-one longer term coaching work, kind of mentorship, hybrid style, and then weaving in medicines when it's appropriate and with a lot of strategy and intention. But really my past has been very much rooted in group work. And I also, just in the last few years have just seen the spaces where that tending being held in a one-on-one way is really needed and really special. And that's what really lighting me up right now.
It's something that I am such a cheerleader for, because a lot of people are step one is to really recognize there's lots of jobs within this parameter, whether we call it plant medicine, psychedelics, coaching, transformation work. A lot of times people just see the option as I can be a facilitator or I could be a trip sitter. And we're missing so many great coaches that help people prepare for and integrate, which for me is the biggest job that's missing. And it's totally legal in every context in the United States currently.
Yep. Yeah, I feel privileged that I have had many years of watching the evolution of this work, and also sat on the side of participant, really just winging it and not having any guidance. And so having that opportunity to see how that went for me, and then watching a lot of other people, there was just a point that I was like, all right, something has to change here for people, because we're replicating a lot of the things that we're saying that we don't want to replicate, of like hoping that the magical pill takes everything away and putting in the retreat there or the plant medicine there instead of the pill, but we're doing the same thing. And so it has been really a part of my devotion to this work to work with people one-on-one, and then also to have the group. I do a lot of group integration calls and set to make those spaces available for people. And it lights me up.
And it brings various price points. So from an accessibility perspective, there's more support. And something that I watch is, especially with the larger retreat centers, they're putting through 20, 40, 50, 60, 70 people a week and saying, cool, so if you want to do any integration, here it is. But it's an add-on feature that no one pays for the add-on feature. They're like, oh no, I already came for the main feature. I don't need dessert, kind of a thing. I'm full, when it's something that really can't be optional.
Yeah. And I've had those conversations with bigger places where I'm like, this needs to be built in. And so I'm grateful. And I think our community feels that when people come who have been other places, are like, wow, there's built in support on the front end, back end. And it's just not optional. It's like, these are the things that people have to do to come. And then I think once you get a little taste of that, you're like, oh, if I do the one-on-one, or I change the model of, I'm just going to show up at a retreat and hope for the best instead, and do working with someone like me, for example, and then seeing if a retreat is even needed, it changes people's perspective on the flow.
Well, and a lot of times people think they need another retreat when what they need is some integration and support. So from a cost perspective, constantly investing in retreats actually ends up being a lot more. You're taking off work, you have flights, you have to go there, time off, pet sitters, babysitters, versus sometimes it's no, you have to learn how to build community. You have to learn how to connect without substances or experiences that are so peak.
You've talked about this a lot, and I love it because we see psychedelics are not addictive. And yes, but people are coming to these things because of the community and these other facets of it. And I really try to hit home, that there's other ways we can meet those needs, but we have to do maybe the not so glamorous part of the work, but that's the stuff that's going to make the lasting change in your life, the day-to-day refinements of our lifestyle.
Yeah, those are usually the things that people are coming back for: how to have communication skills, what to do when they're in an argument with someone they care about, how do they approach it for repair after a rupture. Those are the things that you won't necessarily learn in ceremony. It might be shown to you, but it's in the moment the work has to occur. And if you don't slow down to come up with a what happens when plan. Okay, I know I want to go back and be kinder, or not react to my kids. It's not, I'm just feeling inconvenienced by some of the ways they're behaving. But for me to explode at them is not an appropriate behavior for what they're doing. So I want to be different. But then they just say, I want to. There is no plan. Then it happens. It's like shame, guilt spiral.
Yep. Yeah, the strategy isn't there and the tools. And it's like, so the combination of being able to like have the tools, have the plan, and then also add in those things, that's where like I think real magic and lasting change happens for sure.
And you've been leading trips down to Peru for what, like 14 years, something like that?
Yeah, I have. And that's been just a joy of my life. I have such a special place in my heart for Peru. I do bring people to Costa Rica more recently, but yeah, Peru is a place that I just love so much. And actually, this last year, my whole family got to come down. So it was really sweet to show my kids just a different culture and just to get to experience that. But yeah, it's been nice to work with. I have a teacher that I work with, and to pay kind of tribute and honor to the actual traditions and to give back and be in a place of reciprocity with her community is really important to me.
Yeah, that's always been a big thing for us too, is not just being on the land in the United States, getting the lessons and blessings of the indigenous cultures and South American cultures overall.
Yep.
That I think that it's so important at some point, if people are working in this, to actually go to the source and learn from people that live there and financially contribute to people that live there. And I watch Americans quite often, whether it's Costa Rica or Peru, take a group down there, work with an American person in a Americanized retreat center with very few, other than like the maintenance staff and the cleaning staff. It's like they don't have facilitators or coaches or guides or mystics or anyone of Peruvian or indigenous descent. And
Yep.
when I say Peruvian versus indigenous, I'm referring to, say, the Quiros Nation, any of the tribes in the jungle, people that have really raised these medicines and these master teachers, worked with them, have the stories, and there's an energy to it. There's a experience you can't have any other way.
100%. I feel like it amplifies the reverence for these traditions. And there's so much out there on the internet right now about this work and how to like get the certification to become a facilitator or a shaman. And it's like when you actually go to someplace like Peru and have even just a smidgen of an understanding of what the actual tradition is behind this, there's more humility and understanding that like it's problematic for us to be trying to westernize these things. And so, yeah,
Totally.
going directly to the source, there's nothing quite like it.
It's like we need both, right? Because we have Western minds that don't necessarily translate in a lot of the South American cultures. And
Totally.
so being able to have systems and structures and learn facilitation practices for Americans, it's one part of the job. But to say that you go take that training and then you're qualified to serve, that's where it gets
It's
tricky.
even integration. It's like that's not traditional, but it's like we're not indigenous people from the jungle. So it's like we
Right.
have to, I feel like it's about, yeah, having the experience of understanding the tradition and then knowing who you are and that we're coming to the table to work with these master plan teachers for very different reasons than traditional people are. And so it's like we have to have both and have the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think that it should be their responsibility to process our American, often privileged problems, even though we still have all our capital T traumas. Because they are a more integrated people, they live in community, they're with each other every day. They live integrated in a way that's different than we do. And so for me, I also don't think it should even be their responsibility to integrate us.
Totally. My teacher, it's like she's not really a part of that process. And that's where she leans into her organizers, her people. Like we're very close friends at this point, but it's like she totally knows that's an important facet of the work for us, but that's where we come in and have
Totally.
that's where we shine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what got you into this to begin with? Because 15 years in the work, there's not many people out there that are. They either get burned out, exhausted, tired, or they swung too far into the woo space and the spiritual and the too much medicine. And then they flip back to a more conservative Christian of like their upbringing core. So,
Totally.
how did you get into it and what's kind of kept you in this work?
Yeah. I feel like it was just the opportunity to work with this medicine came at a really like pivotal time in my life where it was kind of luck, honestly, that somebody invited me into this work. So that part felt really miraculous and mysterious, but it was a very clear inner knowing that I wanted to go down this path because I could have gone down a very different path in my life. And a lot of the kind of accumulation of my life's traumas and addiction and these things were really the like traditional Western therapy and the things I had tried, I just felt like I was plateauing in a lot of ways and getting frustrated. And so I, yeah, I think that's why there was the full body yes to work with this medicine. And it really immediately showed me that there's quite a bit of potential. So the beginning years were very much me doing my own personal work and exploring that. And then it moved into having the guidance that like I could see that this is something that I wanted to weave my life's work and share with others. And so I feel like the sustainability part has been, I feel like working with the medicines, but also side by side studying to also and figuring out the, like we talked about, the balance of doing the 3D day-to-day work and then weaving in the medicines as needed and then really listening to my own personal guidance. And I always think it's interesting when people say, oh, the medicine told me, because it's really amplifying your own inner truth. But just following through with the step-by-step kind of homework that I was getting and actually, like we're talking about, doing that work before just chasing the next peak experience. So there's been, I feel like, a pretty good balance in that process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think that especially when it comes to this work, when I never had a moment that I was like, I'm meant to be a facilitator. That never happened. If
Yep.
anything, it was the opposite, where I was like,
Nope.
no, I don't think that's for me. I'll bring people to Peru. I'll have them work with my teachers and we'll do it that way. And then a point did come where people wanted me and taught to facilitate because they couldn't go to Peru. They had other accessibility issues, travel issues. And it still took a year of people asking us regularly and consistently, before it was really people saying, no, but I feel safest with you to go within myself to where I need to go. It's not that I don't need anything from you. Just you being there makes me feel safe enough to go.
Totally.
And so that made me go, oh, well, I can do that, right? I couldn't say I'm going to facilitate a process, or if you get stuck, I could help you. But I've been a natural coach my whole life, wanting to help, wanting to evoke people's self-power, personal empowerment, and all of that. And so as you've gone through this process, you and your partner end up getting land and creating this center. I'd like to talk a little bit about the truth of what's behind that, because that's another thing that gets glorified is one, becoming a facilitator, two, having a retreat center. And I don't know if people actually understand what it is to steward land versus just own land and actually care for the land. So let's talk about that part of your story a little bit. Of first, what was the call to get land? And then what has that kind of been like for you?
I saw that vision very early on, having the space. And it originally was like, I'm going to have a place in Costa Rica and everyone's going to go down. But it shifted partially because I became a mother and because I really felt like what people are missing in life. And what I kept hearing is like every retreat, it's like, the community, the connections, and it's what you said, not everybody can pick up and go on retreat. There's a lot of like issues with that for me too, it really became more clear for us that we're like, we want to have something grassrootsy that's a labor of love that we're working on over time here in our community that people can come to for a variety of different reasons. And so it took me many years to make that possible. And that's something I talk about all the time. Like we have a vision, we hold the vision, we have to do the practical things every single day that are not very glamorous, like getting your money shit straight and all that stuff. And then it's like, I think 10 years later, then now here we are with this incredible space that so many people are very woven into and feel a part of, that feels actually sustainable for us, that I have separation from my home, but my kids can go and be there if they want to like play and help us have on work days. But yeah, it is a lot of work to tend to the land, to make sure that we're actually, for me, it feels really important that we don't have groups back to back. It's like letting the land breathe, like letting, us have time and space to like work on different things there. So I think people do romanticize it. I think going to Peru for many years helped me enter into more of a right relationship with what that even means to steward land and to care about it and to tend to it. So I think that process of going there for many years really helped posture me in where I am now. We do call in on our community, which is really beautiful. So people do come and we have work days. And I think it helps people have more of a sense of like ownership and just, again, being a part of something. That's the part that I think people really love and crave.
Mm-hmm. I love that you have that too, because the amount of times it was something that when I decided to start doing groups, I changed immediately. The amount of times I'd go to a retreat
Uh-huh.
and the people would leave their trash and just leave things a disaster when they left the space was insanity. Like I could not make sense of it in my mind, where it's like leaving cups over in the planter or leaving your trash, your wrapper just sitting out on the lawn. And not that things don't happen or people forget,
Yeah.
but that people were showing up just expecting to be cared for and not taking any self responsibility on the land while they're there.
It's interesting conversation because I feel like that's something I'm reflecting on. And I think it's something that, like, there's skills that you have to have being in that position of leadership to help people, one, also step into leadership, and then how like you are interfacing with the space. And there was a point I remember a group had come from the Bay Area that left the place in a condition I wasn't really stoked on. And it's like, it was a fascinating conversation to have with the person who was like the organizer, just found like, this isn't just an Airbnb, like this is a temple space. And I think it's about empowering people to enter into a different relationship with how they're interfacing with everything in life. And there's something that feels good about taking personal responsibility. And so that's, I think, a process, just even that we're in as a community.
Well,
Does
and
that
like
make sense?
like you said, for me, it's about shifting it where that's how we show up to every space.
Totally.
It's like B&B or a temple, that every place we actually had the same time, intention, attention. Because I've gone with friends to Airbnbs and like, well, no, we paid the cleaning fee. And I'm
Mhm.
like, right, but the person that's cleaning doesn't mean that then if you take some radical self-responsibility, you just cut their work time in half. For me, it's
No, I
about
had
taking
a person
responsibility all the time.
Yep. No, I had a person actually after Condor when I stayed at an Airbnb that like wrote me and they were like, I can't believe how you left the place. I'm like, I did my dishes. Like it's not, I didn't, it wasn't that crazy, but I think that's how this work impacts people. It's about how you live all the time. It's not just in the retreat. It's like, how do we bring this way of interfacing with everything, with intentionality, with integrity, with care? It's a different mindset.
Yeah. Well, even with, say, something like an Airbnb, that's some family's income a lot of the time. Right. And so it's like when things get broken, damaged, lost, because other people have no care for it. To
Yeah,
me, it's that the point of this work from my perspective is getting cohesive in every area of your life, not just when you're in ceremony, but how do I bring ceremony and ritual to life? How do I
totally.
make that a part of my day to day?
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And that's where the integration comes in. It's not, oh, the integration's one day. It's like these are ongoing processes that the more that we intentionally engage with them and create space for, the more that we extract, and then the more that we can weave into every moment. And then we don't have to compartmentalize everything so much.
Yeah. It's like if I really look at who do I want to become or who am I becoming? What are my actions? What am I doing or not doing that aligns with who I want to become? And how
Yeah,
do I get that in integrity and cohesion?
totally.
Because most people believe themselves to be a kind person. They want to treat people a certain way. And for me, the practice is in the hard moments, like at the grocery store when someone cuts you off or someone cuts you off in the car, or those are the little moments you get to practice integrating who you want to become or who you're stepping into being. And you can take those opportunities, or you can get frustrated, then go back to ceremony just for the pressure release valve that doesn't really change anything.
Totally. No, I was just thinking about the three Ps. Me and my kid, that was one of the ones that was like so easy for me to come back from Condor with and be like, all right, because things get activated like all the time at home. And it's like there's so much opportunity to practice at home with your kids and with your family. And it's like, and I still, my kids will be like three Ps, just the pause, before people start losing it. And just
Totally.
that act of slowing down is really revolutionary.
Most of the things we regret in life came
Mhm.
from a reaction. What we
Yes.
said, what we did, that if we would have paused, we could choose different. Who do I want to be in this moment? What would love do? How do I want to show up? So
Yeah.
as you've gone through this evolutionary process, you attending retreats and then you creating a center and then you bring in a lot of different guides and people also for your community. What do you wish more people knew about this work that they don't know? Like if you were to choose one.
No. Well, I think I always try to amplify that it is a privilege to do this work. And we do come from the culture of everything's at our fingertips all the time. We have unlimited access. And so for me, the holding it in a really sacred way is really important. And through that, holding it in a sacred way, it does require us to put thoughtfulness into like how we want to be with the experience and how we want to come into it and what we're hoping to do after it. So really the conversation is so much for me about the integration and about the intentionality in the bigger picture. And I feel just it's human nature often for people to like not really necessarily get that until after it's over, and then they're like, "Oh, that's what you were talking about." So it takes a little bit of lived experience, I think, once you fumble a bit after when you're newer, and even later when you get a little cocky and you're like, "Well, I've done this a million times." And
Totally.
you got, and it's like, so there's never a time when we want to enter into this work without that level of intentionality. Otherwise, for me, it feels like it's we're not holding it in that way with that reverence. And so that's really important to me.
I feel like that's when the hard lessons come in again. It's like whether we call it arrogance or recklessness or just not being intentional, or you invest in some retreat center and get nothing. What I mean when I say get nothing is the breakthrough that you said you needed, because the lesson is that it's not in the breakthrough. You're back. I already gave you your message. I already told you what you need to know. I have no more news for no updates, ma'am.
Totally. Just
Go ahead and do it.
It's going to come through. And it's like people want the big things. And often it's like, no, you need to refine your life. You need to drink more water, get more sleep, change your relationship with X, Y, and Z substance. Like that's the stuff that then will create the space for the bigger vision, or for you to have the capacity to go into the roots of maybe the trauma or whatnot. So it's that part of the work. There's a lot of resistance around. And I think that's where like really skilled coaches come in to help anchor in those things. So there's more capacity for the other stuff.
Yeah, with all the distraction in general, the coach can be the anchor of what are our goals? Where are we going? Are we on track? Because inevitably, the amount of times I worked with a client when I was full-time coaching before Condor, the amount of times someone 2 months into it, 6 weeks into it would feel one of two things would happen. And this was with personal training clients too.
Wow.
Between the 4 to 6 week mark, they would either something would happen in life that would take them off track, or they would get a little arrogant and think, I got this. And then something would happen to knock them out. They would shame spiral. Oh, I'm not growing. It's not getting better. This isn't working. And we'd have to pull out our documentation from our sessions and go, look at this growth. I know it feels today like you're frustrated. I know it seems like there isn't growth, but look at all this evidence of growth. And most coaches don't keep track of anything. So they can't even show the client where the growth is. And when someone's down on themselves, I know when I was down on myself, when I lived in that negative space, I would show up in support, like to ask for support in the energy I was in that moment. So if I'm frustrated that day, nothing's working. Everything sucks. The world is falling apart.
Yep. No, the data extraction piece, I feel is one of the most valuable pieces that, and I got so much out of doing Condor, but it's like, there's a lot of reasons why people don't see the growth. So being able to show that is like, it ignites the motivation. But again, we're also being marketed all the time that we don't have to do anything and we're going to have this massive change in our life, or that we'll have this massive change with little effort and then it dissolves away because it's not sustainable. So it's helping, I think, people also just reprogram that. And like, it's more about slower, steady, like poco a poco. And then it's like the retreat space for me. It's like, look, now it's here. Because
it's here 10 years after.
Things take time. And where the devotion comes in. But the tracking piece with clients, I feel, has been so beneficial. So people can really see.
Yes, that's the evidence you have from the retreat center. You build it a little bit at a time, but you have a structure to prove where all that work went. So as a coach, as a guide, even a facilitator, if you don't help people to see some structure of where they've come from, then they're not as likely to stay the course and stay in devotion on the hard days when you just want to give up. Because when you look at whether it's plant medicines and psychedelics, entheogens, or whether it's AI, people are looking to skip steps, right? Social media, instant gratification. Oh, AI will help me not have to work. Oh, AI will help me if I want to be a content creator to just put it on autopilot and I won't have to show up anymore. But people are sold the skipping steps. Oh, one ceremony was 10 years of therapy. Yeah, but it wasn't 10 years of integrating the therapy.
That's a good point.
It takes time, and it takes what it takes.
Yeah, I did a 5-week microdose container, and it was 25 people. It was amazing. But what was the most powerful reoccurring comment was, of course, the community piece, but it was the journal, the tracking. People had to every morning. They were in a structured container, and it was there. You had to do it in the morning, you had to do it at night, and people could see the progress, because that is what microdosing is. It's subtle. And so you had to take the time to notice and slow down. And so I think people were really floored by the impact of that, because that's not, generally a practice that people do. And then through that, there was weaving in things into their life that will be positive, lasting change for them.
Consistently, when someone microdosed and journaled, I saw far more lasting impacts
And
than most retreat weekends.
Totally.
Because it was that daily awareness. They started to see the patterns and trends that they do. They started to see what got them off track, what habits they choose to participate in, that when they slowed down to choose different, that's when their life really got into the aligned position of what they really wanted to get out of it, and who they wanted to be.
Yeah, there's something too about just doing, like committing to yourself and doing something every day that I think it does something to somebody. We're like, wow, I actually every day made this commitment to myself and did that. So just even that act in itself is really, really powerful.
I would say most people are living pretty dissociated because they're so associated to the future or so attached to the past that the lack of presence means you are not associated to the present moment. You are associated to other timelines, which means you are disassociated from the present moment, can't remember things, brain fog. For me, a lot of that can be trying to hold on to the past memories, trying to project the future memories, trying to be a people pleaser and please everyone else means that all of that noise, you can't see things clearly and you're certainly not present.
Yeah, that's really interesting to think about. That dissociation.
Yeah. So when you look at, say, your microdosing container, was there an overall theme? Because I noticed a lot of times there's themes, like people are attracted at a certain time for a certain thing. So what do you feel like in the last one was a theme that people seemed to be either working with, working on, or wanted to bring attention to?
The themes for that emerged, and there always is, it's so fascinating because last night I just led my monthly community integration call, and it was like overwhelming. The theme was like grief and death, and it's like every month there's something. It's just like that's the magic and mystery of the alchemy of people coming together. But this group was really about expansion of capacity, like whether that and really tied into the nervous system. So there was just a lot of conversation around how when we can slow down and listen to our body and these practices of doing the journal, like we're slowing down to reflect on our somatic experience, reflect on our day, that slowing down provides a lot of information to us. And it then expands our capacity to show up as parents, as athletes, as we had a lot of doctors. And so that was and then I feel like addiction, but not a broader understanding of addiction, addiction to social media, addiction to food and of tuning out, like you said, the dissociation piece. And I feel like there was a lot of opportunity for people to just come into more presence.
When you are talking to someone, say doing like an intake process or like a exploring, working together, how do you determine who is correct for more of a microdosing type container? Who is more of a one-on-one? What are some of the things you look for? So if someone's listening right now, and one, I recommend anyone reach out to you, whether they want to do groups or travel to Peru or just see what you're doing. But what would you tell people to consider, or what could they learn from? What would be a good fit for them if they were microdose or one-on-one or retreat setting?
There's not for me, it's very bio individual and it's not a one size fits all model. But I feel like for me, it is really tuning in to the person because sometimes someone is brand new and I'm like, oh, this actually might be a really great match to go to Peru. But I feel like often dipping your toes in if you're newer to this work is a microdose container is amazing because you can understand how to be in an intentional process, how to be with other people while you're doing it. And it's a nice way to, I think, open up the feeling of safety in this work. I think for one-on-one work, I think it's people that do have a lot of excitement and commitment and drive to want to really make the lasting change and to go deep. And so if you really want to get in there, then the one-on work is awesome because you can really set your intentions and then determine if you even need to with medicine. We don't always even need that, but you have to be a person that really wants to get in there. And I think the group work can be appropriate for a lot of people in a lot of places, but I think it's not ideal for people if they haven't done enough front end work already in their life, or if they're really navigating really big stuff, like anything acute in this moment, then it is more ideal to like work with somebody one-on-one to like actually be with the grief or be with the depression. Like going into a big peak experience when you're not grounded is not, I would never give a thumbs up to that.
Yeah.
There's more front end work that needs to happen first. So there, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those that everyone wants to get out of the discomfort they're in. So they think, oh, what's the strongest thing I could do?
Right.
Should I do bufo or ayahuasca? But they're like trying to get the prescription of
Uh-huh.
how do I get through this, when sometimes it's actually, I don't recommend you do any of them. I
Exactly.
recommend you slow down enough to actually feel the feelings that you're having, that you're not acknowledging, that you've done ketamine sessions for, and you do hape daily to get out of the experience you're having in your body.
I mean, there's a lot of that running from feeling going on. And I feel
Yep.
like I've been saying, not no, like ever, but there's a lot more guidance from me of no. Like, yeah, right now is not an ideal time for you or for the whole container to
Yeah.
come in that kind of state. And that's the biggest challenge I see for humans is like the fear of feeling. Like, and just what can we do to not do that, to not feel. But if we allow ourselves to just be present, like that's the only way through,
Yeah,
actually.
there's a place where community is really powerful for sure, but if you don't first, not, but when you
Mhm.
slow down enough to become aware of your stuff, one, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. Okay. As someone that started in groups, the amount of times I ended up doing work that, oh, that's not even mine. Like
Right.
someone said this in a ceremony about they had a twin and the twin died and they've spent their whole life trying to find this thing. And since I was a twin, I spent like 2 years exploring this idea that never would have come to me.
Right.
And I allowed that to be, maybe that's why I was so depressed in my teens. But then when I look at the evidence, I'm like, bitch, no, you had trauma. Like you had very
Right.
significant
Yeah.
capital T on in every DSM manual, a long script of things
Mhm.
because of experiences I had. And not to
Yep.
say there couldn't be things, of it, but when you spend time doing that front end work, like you said, and you have an awareness of how you process, how you feel, and what you need, so that when
Yep.
you're in a group, you're able to ask for it, you're able
Mhm.
to articulate it. Because a lot of harm happens in groups because the individual can't speak up because of people pleasing, not wanting to offend anyone, feeling uniquely broken. And so then there ends up being harm created that sometimes the facilitator never even knows about because the person
Totally.
never says anything.
Yep. Yeah. And those are real dynamics of, yeah, people not sharing and yeah. And yeah, again, taking on other people's stuff. So yeah, I think the more that we are able to like get to know ourselves and to be able to speak our truth and to be doing things side by side, the
Agreed.
better it goes.
Agreed. So what's your favorite thing to do? Like in your current iteration, in your current life, what is your favorite thing to do? And with what types of people or what processes are they in?
Gosh, that's so tricky because I really, really love the groups. I feel like there's definitely energy coming through and doors are opening and people are inviting me. And there's an undeniable energy around like my own facilitation and my own work in not just the curation of a space, but also being in that position of facilitation, which is really exciting. And I can feel that in my body. That's when you know that there's something really there. And so I think that that can weave into facilitation in a group or facilitation one-on-one, but that's really what's feeling alive. And I love working with all types of people, but I feel like a lot of I've been enjoying working with women in late 30s, mid 30s who are like excited about their passion of life, but not quite sure how to trust it and lean in and go for it. And so I think because of what I've done in my life and how I've done what I've done, there's an energy where I can support people in the practicality of how to make these things happen.
It's like you've really done it, not just learned it, but also done it for yourself. And you're like me. You just continue to take trainings and all of that stuff. The difference is you and I have talked about this before. Once you do the work where the certifications aren't what you're looking for, but you are a student devoted to learning and growing. For me, my favorite teachers are the ones is willing to be students in other ways that they don't know and
Totally.
continuing to grow. And that's where I think we keeping a level of humility, keeping a level of getting ourselves off the pedestal, you know, and like intentionally being in environments to learn and to grow and recognizing I don't need the piece of paper to say that I know. The information, I feel an embodiment when I do it, when I put it into action. And that's the difference.
Yeah, I was just actually like playing around with a little content before this around the value of mentorship. And that's just something and learning, but like that I will always have in my life that I love because I get so much out of it, but it's also something that keeps me supported and in check because people have blind spots and so for me it's like the beginner mind, the student mind. I love learning, but I feel like it was helpful to be in relationship with you at a certain point to be like, no, you've got like get out there and do the things. And so I feel like I'm in a sweet spot right now of sharing, and there's always going to be a chunk of my space in my life that will be for ongoing learning and being
Totally.
too. Because
Yeah.
we need to be held. We can't always be holding. There has to be balance in that.
And there is something to be said when you go into a mentorship type environment and someone says, what you don't need me. You don't need me. You don't need this. Like, just go do the thing. Sometimes we
Mhm.
need to hear it, not as a permission standpoint, but someone that we respect how they're operating to go, no, you've got it. Just go. It was Brooke Castillo was that for me. You know, she was just like, the only reason you're not getting, she's like, the only reason you're not $1 million coach, like the $1 million coaches that I know, is because you don't believe that that's the level of value you bring to people's lives.
Yep.
And when I sat with it and I was like, one, she's right. Two, when I really sat and thought about how many people shared how it changed their marriage, how it saved their marriage, and they would have spent tens of thousands if it was divorce or if they would have gone to therapy or if they would have, who knows?
Yep.
It's something that I had never just sat down and really understood. And
Mhm.
once I did, then it was like, oh no, sometimes people come along on our path. And I've had the same with elders in South America,
Okay. Yep.
you know, saying like that they like nodding and giving their approval of how I'm doing things. I didn't go looking for it. But when you
Exactly.
receive it from someone you respect, there's almost like this deep breath relaxing where it's like I didn't realize I was contracting, trying to hold it all together. And I'm like, oh no, I can relax into this now.
But that's so funny that you just articulated that way because I feel like that's just been an unfolding for me. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like I can, yeah, just breathe more easily. And it is that embodied sense of confidence and believing of self that allows for me to just even now show up even better, because I really believe in myself. And so I'm grateful for those teachers and people that have reminded me of that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And even for me, hearing like having the conversation with you before we started the recording, where we're not going to do live events for Condor anymore. Now, all the lessons and teachings will continue. Those are
Right.
going to stay. We think that everyone needs to know them or that wants to, right? But we were talking about the fact that for me, stepping on the path of motherhood, I don't know who I'm going to become. And I want to be fully available and present to that process. Because to me, it's an initiation, just like the medicine path, the way I showed up for that 6 years on my own before I ever considered holding space for someone else
Uh-huh.
and cleaning buckets and making dinners and cleaning the space. Like, that's the same devotion that I want to this new version of me that I don't know. That I
Yep.
want to meet her as she comes and not be so inundated with sales calls and coaching calls and content creation and updating manuals and all the things required to keep Condor going the way it has.
Yep.
And so our conversation to have you say the things to me of, yeah, I'm so grateful that I did that. I'm so grateful that I slowed down with my kids, that I took that time with them. because those are the things I need to hear in the shifting, and then seeing you back rocking and rolling and doing more than you did before in private client work. We need each other for those reflections, because I'm going to be calling you like, dude, this child is bugging. Lauren. What did you do to stay conscious and help teach them sovereignty and sharing?
Yep. No, for sure. And I feel like that motherhood is a major initiation, and I would not be who I am. And I wouldn't be doing the work in the way that I'm doing it if it wasn't for what motherhood, how it changed me in the most beautiful ways. My oldest, closest friends are like, this was part of what needed to happen to allow you to be in the facilitation role and to do all of these things and to even slow down. As I moved at a really fast pace, but now there's a different level of intentionality. And I think motherhood accompanies this type of work in a really beautiful way. So yeah, we have to lean into each other for that type of reflection now. And I'm excited for that and for you.
Me too. We could go on for days and months and years and forever, ever. Amen. How can people get in touch with you? What is the best way to reach out to you? We have the Condor Coach directory, but if they want to reach out to you directly, what's the best way to contact you?
I am Lauren Gallagher, Medicina Pachamama. So you can find me on Instagram or on my website. It's all medicinapachamama.com at Instagram, and same with my email at Gmail. So any of those three ways, my website, you can see a bunch of the offers. And I directly connect with everybody. So setting up like a call to just dive in and see what actually makes sense for you is really the best way and how I roll.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, Kole.
Is there anything else that's like resting on your heart that you would like to leave with the listener today?
Just to let truth be your guide. And I feel like it's what we were talking about just a few minutes ago of you listen to your truth of what was true for you in your life. And not that wrestling with the truth isn't always easy, but will always get us to the right place. And that's true with medicine work, with anything that we're doing. If we're really listening to our truth and slowing down enough to listen to that, we will always be moving in the right direction.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you, everyone that has been listening today. Leave a review. If there was a big realization or a little nugget that you took from today, pop it in the review on iTunes. You can leave comments on Spotify if there's something that you loved, and I'll make sure that Lauren's contact information is down in the description. So thank you again so much, Lauren. It's always good to connect with you. And for the rest of you, I will see you soon.